Hey everyone, welcome back to the Checkered Sky channel where we dive into true crime stories. Today we're diving into a case that shook a small Maryland town to its core. A case filled with mystery, heartbreak, and a relentless pursuit of answers. This is the story of Rachel Morin, a 37-year-old mother of 5 whose routine evening took a chilling turn. If you're into true crime, missing persons cases, and unraveling the threads of a real-life detective story, hit that subscribe button, tap the bell, and let's get started. It was August 5, 2023, in Bel Air, Maryland, a quaint community about 30 miles northeast of Baltimore. The sun was dipping low, casting a warm golden glow over the Ma and Pa Heritage Trail, a popular spot for joggers, walkers, and families looking to enjoy the summer air. Rachel Morin, a vibrant woman known for her love of fitness, laced up her running shoes and headed out for her usual jog on the trail. Rachel left her home around 6 p.m., her phone and Apple Watch in tow, likely listening to music or tracking her steps as she jogged along the familiar path. The Ma and Pa Trail, named after the old Maryland and Pennsylvania Railroad, stretched through Bel Air's wooded areas, offering a scenic escape for locals. To her family, this was just another evening. Rachel often hit the trail in the summer, and no one thought twice about her quick run. Her boyfriend, Richard Tobin, and her 5 children, ranging in age from young kids to a 19-year-old daughter, were used to her routine. But as the evening wore on, something felt off. By 8 p.m., Rachel hadn't returned. Richard, who'd been expecting her back within an hour, started to worry. He sent her a text, then another, but his phone stayed silent. No reply, no read receipt. Rachel was reliable, always checking in, especially with her kids depending on her. Her oldest daughter, who shared a close bond with her mom, tried calling, but the calls went straight to voicemail. The family's concern grew as the minutes ticked by. Richard drove to the trailhead near William Street, where Rachel usually parked her car. Sure enough, her car was still there, sitting quietly in the lot, untouched. Something was wrong. Richard didn't hesitate. He called the Harford County Sheriff's Office and reported Rachel missing. Her kids, especially her oldest, were distraught, clinging to hope that she'd just lost track of time or her phone had died. The police responded quickly, arriving at the trailhead to meet Richard and begin piecing together what might have happened. The sheriff's deputies fanned out along the Ma and Pa Trail, flashlights cutting through the dusk as they searched for any sign of Rachel. They questioned nearby residents and trail users, asking if anyone had seen a 37-year-old woman jogging that evening. A few locals mentioned seeing someone matching Rachel's description, but no one had noticed anything suspicious. The police combed the area near her car, looking for clues: a dropped phone, a forgotten water bottle, anything that might point to where she'd gone. As the night deepened, the search intensified, with deputies calling in additional support from local and state agencies. The family huddled together, trying to stay calm, but the question hung heavy: where was Rachel? Word of Rachel's disappearance spread quickly through Bel Air. The Harford County Sheriff's Office set up a command post near the trail, coordinating efforts as volunteers and officers scoured the woods. What had started as a routine jog was turning into a puzzle that would grip the nation. Rachel grew up in Harford County, Maryland, in a close-knit family that cherished their time together. Her mother, Patty Morin, described her as a bright spark, someone who could light up a room with her laughter and boundless energy. A fitness enthusiast, Rachel was no stranger to hard work. She ran marathons, lifted weights, and made regular visits to her local gym. Rachel's children were her world. She balanced her role as a mom with running her own cleaning business, a venture that showcased her entrepreneurial drive and commitment to providing for her family. To her boyfriend, Richard Tobin, Rachel was a partner who brought joy and stability to their shared life. Their relationship, though relatively new, was built on mutual respect and shared moments of happiness. as the search for Rachel Morin stretched into the early hours of August 6, 2023. The sheriff's office had already interviewed those closest to her, including Richard and her children, trying to build a timeline of her last moments. They asked about her routines, her relationships, and whether anyone might have had a reason to disrupt her life. The answers painted a clear picture. Rachel was a woman loved by many, with no known conflicts or enemies. Before going for a run, Rachel visited 2 local stores. This was confirmed by surveillance camera footage. There was nothing unusual about her behavior. As the search intensified, a grim discovery would soon shift the case from a missing persons report to something far more devastating. Rachel had parked her car near the William Street entrance, a spot she often chose for its easy access. By morning, the sheriff's office had expanded the search radius, focusing on the trail's less traveled sections. Deputies used ATVs to navigate the rugged terrain, while volunteers walked the path, eyes scanning for any sign of Rachel, her phone, her water bottle, or the bright workout gear she often wore. The effort was meticulous, with teams checking every bend, every thicket, hoping to find her alive. Around 1 p.m., 2 volunteers, Evan Knapp and Cecilia Ocorso, were searching near a creek line off the trail, not far from the William Street entrance. They noticed something unusual, a patch of flattened leaves resembling a deer trail, leading away from the main path. As they followed it, their hearts sank. They spotted rocks with traces of blood, scattered along a 150-foot stretch leading toward a drainage culvert, a concrete tunnel running under the trail. Evan, hesitant at first, moved closer, peering into the culvert's shadowed mouth. What he saw stopped him cold. A human figure, motionless. Time seemed to freeze as he processed the sight. Sheriff's deputies secured the area, cordoning off the culvert and the blood-marked path. The body was identified as Rachel Morin, her Apple Watch and phone still nearby, offering clues to her final moments. The scene was somber as investigators worked carefully, collecting evidence while respecting the gravity of the moment. Rachel's family was notified, and the weight of the news crushed them. Patty Morin, her mother, later recalled the detectives' compassion, even as they delivered the heartbreaking confirmation. The trail, once a place of solace for Rachel, had become the site of an unthinkable tragedy. Investigators turned to the medical examiner for answers. The autopsy, conducted by the Maryland office of the chief medical examiner, determined Rachel's death was a homicide, caused by a combination of strangulation and blunt force trauma. The report noted multiple injuries to her head, indicating a violent encounter, but the exact sequence of events remained unclear. Her Apple Watch provided critical data. At 7:07 p.m. on August 5th, her heart rate spiked to 115 beats per minute, suggesting a moment of intense stress or struggle. Within 2 minutes, it dropped to 69 beats per minute, and by 7:09 p.m., it was down to 62, marking the likely time of her death. This narrow window, 4 to 6 minutes, suggested a swift and deliberate act, leaving investigators to ponder whether it was planned or opportunistic. The sheriff's office collected forensic evidence from the scene, including DNA samples found on Rachel's body and belongings. These were sent to the Maryland State Police Crime Lab for analysis, a step that would later prove pivotal. Deputies photographed the area, documenting the blood-stained rocks and the path where Rachel had been dragged into the culvert. The scene suggested she'd been pulled off the trail, away from the open path where joggers and walkers passed by. The discovery raised chilling questions. Had someone been watching her? Was this a random act, or had Rachel crossed paths with someone who knew her routine? The community reeled as news of Rachel's death spread. Social media posts, once filled with hope for her safe return, now carried condolences and calls for justice. The sheriff's office urged anyone who'd been on the trail between 5 p.m. and 11 p.m. on August 5th to come forward. The trail's safety, once taken for granted, was now in question. Sheriff Jeffrey Galler increased patrols, and plans were made to install cameras along the path, a response to the community's growing fear.
It's been 4 days since Rachel Morin went missing, and 3 days since her body was located, the victim of a violent homicide. As your sheriff, I wanted to update all of you on where the investigation stands and what we are doing to keep our citizens safe.
Rachel's family, devastated but resolute, began planning ways to honor her memory. Her mother, Patty, placed photos of Rachel along the trail, a quiet tribute to her daughter's vibrant life. The sheriff's office, meanwhile, was relentless, following every lead. As investigators dug deeper, they wondered, was Rachel targeted because of her routine, or was she simply in the wrong place at the wrong time? The trail's quiet culvert had revealed its grim secret, but the answers to who did this and why remained just out of reach. The hunt for Rachel's killer became a meticulous, multi-state effort, fueled by forensic breakthroughs, witness accounts, and a community determined to see justice served. Her Apple Watch data, showing a heart rate spike at 7:07 p.m. on August 5th, followed by a rapid decline, gave them a narrow window for the crime, between 7:07 and 7:09 p.m. This meant the attack was swift, likely carried out by someone who acted decisively. The lack of immediate witnesses to anything unusual frustrated detectives, but it also suggested the perpetrator knew how to avoid attention. The sheriff's office expanded their interviews, reaching out to Rachel's family, friends, and colleagues to uncover any possible motives or connections. Her boyfriend, Richard Tobin, was questioned again. Detectives asked about their relationship, whether Rachel had mentioned any concerns, or if anyone had shown unusual interest in her. Richard, shaken but cooperative, insisted their relationship was strong and that Rachel hadn't mentioned any threats. She was happy, always planning stuff with the kids, he told investigators.
One question we have continued to get centers around whether we have interviewed the boyfriend in this case. The answer is yes, we have, along with many other people who are close to Rachel. That is the way an investigation is conducted. We start with people who are in her close inner circle and others who have may known her or she have encountered and work outward.
The absence of personal conflicts pointed toward a random act, but detectives weren't ready to rule anything out. The breakthrough DNA match announced on August 17th was a game changer. DNA from Rachel's crime scene, analyzed by the Maryland State Police Crime Lab, matched evidence from a March 2023 home invasion in Los Angeles, where a young girl and her mother had been assaulted. The Los Angeles Police Department provided surveillance footage from the incident, showing a shirtless man, approximately 5 feet 9 inches tall, with dark hair, leaving the home. Colonel William Davis of the Harford County Sheriff's Office explained the significance. "We collected DNA from the crime scene. The Maryland State Police analyzed that DNA for us, ran it through the National CODIS system, and that came back as a match to the crime that occurred in Los Angeles." The video didn't reveal the man's face clearly, but it offered a physical profile. Hispanic, in his mid-20s to 30s, weighing about 160 pounds. Investigators believed this was their suspect, but without a name, they were chasing a shadow. To build a clearer picture, detectives traveled to Los Angeles to work with local police and interview the victims of the home invasion. The family provided critical details, describing the suspect's build and behavior, though they couldn't identify him. The Los Angeles case had left behind a ball cap and a water bottle, both containing DNA that matched the Maryland scene. The team distributed thousands of bilingual flyers in Maryland and California, offering a $30,000 reward for information leading to an arrest. They hoped someone in either community might recognize the man from the video or recall seeing him near the trail. Back in Bel Air, investigators pursued local leads. They reviewed hours of surveillance footage from businesses near the trailhead, including a brewery and a Domino's pizza shop. Sheriff Galler later shared, We've collected and watched hours of video footage from in and around the trail where she disappeared. The footage showed no clear images of the suspect, but it confirmed Rachel's car parked at the Williams Street entrance. Detectives also interviewed residents along the trail, asking about unfamiliar faces in the days leading up to August 5th. Several witnesses reported seeing a man matching the suspect's description in late July, lingering near the trail. One local told police they'd seen a man in a red and black Air Jordan cap near the trailhead, a detail that would later inform a suspect sketch. These sightings suggested the suspect may have been in Bel Air for days, possibly observing the area or even Rachel herself. The investigation wasn't limited to Maryland and California. The team conducted over 100 interviews and followed up on more than 1,000 tips, as reported by the Harford County Sheriff's Office. They worked with 10 federal, state, and local agencies, casting a wide net across 7 states. The FBI's Baltimore field office joined the effort, bringing expertise in forensic analysis and behavioral profiling. A criminal profiler, Pat Brown, created a behavioral profile of the suspect, which Rachel's family distributed to raise awareness. The profile suggested a bold, opportunistic individual, possibly with a history of violent crimes, aligning with Sheriff Gaylor's fear that the suspect could be a serial offender. The violence associated with Rachel's case shows he has absolutely no care, no regard for human life, Gaylor told Fox News Digital. I believe he will continue to do it until he's captured. The sheriff's office also explored whether Rachel's routine made her a target. She jogged the Ma and Pa trail almost daily, often in the evenings, a pattern prosecutors later noted was predictable. This raised the chilling possibility that the suspect had watched her, waiting for the right moment. As months passed, the pressure mounted. The sheriff's office released a composite sketch on February 12, 2024, based on witness descriptions and the Los Angeles footage. One sketch showed the suspect with short black hair, another with the Air Jordan cap. The reward grew to $35,000. The focus remained on the unidentified man from the Los Angeles video. The lack of a name frustrated investigators, but the DNA evidence kept them hopeful. They knew they were looking for someone who'd left a trace in 2 states, someone who moved with purpose and evaded capture. Was he still in Maryland, blending into the community? Or had he fled, leaving behind only fragments of evidence? As the investigation pushed into spring 2024, a new lead surfaced, one that would take detectives far from Bel Air and closer to the truth. What they uncovered would finally give a name to the shadow they'd been chasing. The breakthrough came on May 20th, 2024, Rachel's 38th birthday, when a lead from genetic genealogy gave investigators a name: Victor Antonio Martinez Hernandez. This discovery, described by Sheriff Jeffrey Gaylor as a poetic coincidence or perhaps Rachel's own divine assistance, set the stage for a dramatic arrest that would finally bring a face to the shadow haunting Bel Air. But who was this man, and how had he evaded capture for so long? The arrest unfolded on June 14, 2024, in Tulsa, Oklahoma, nearly 1,200 miles from the crime scene. Harford County Sheriff's Detective Phil Golden had received a critical tip from the Maryland State Police Crime Lab. DNA from items provided by Martinez Hernandez's cousins, a toothbrush, dirty clothes, and a pair of Fila sneakers, matched the DNA found on Rachel's body. With an arrest warrant secured, investigators needed to locate him. They turned to T-Mobile, requesting a ping of his cell phone, which revealed his location at Los Dos Amigos Sports Bar in Tulsa. Tulsa Police Detective Kylie Delmont led the operation, approaching the bar with her team late that night. A security guard initially claimed Martinez Hernandez wasn't there, but soon pointed them to a man sitting casually at the bar. "We ended up finding him," Delmont later testified, noting that he repeatedly gave a false name, Juan Carlos, and denied any knowledge of the crimes. His distinctive teeth, visible in photos, helped confirm his identity. By 11:30 p.m., Martinez Hernandez was in custody, ending a 10-month manhunt.
Did you?
Sí. Ajá.
Where are you from? Where do you live? What state? From El Salvador? Is that where you're from? Oh, yeah. No. El Salvador, is that where you live? Yeah. Victor Antonio Martinez Hernandez, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Martinez Hernandez, a 23-year-old from El Salvador, was born on September 19, 2000. Little is known about his early life, but he had a daughter and ties to Salvadoran street gangs, according to Sheriff Galler. His criminal history began in El Salvador, where an arrest warrant was issued in January 2023 for the murder of a young woman. Fleeing to escape justice, he attempted to enter the United States multiple times. U.S. Border Patrol apprehended and deported him under Title 42 on January 19 and February 6, 2023, near Santa Teresa, New Mexico, and on January 31 near El Paso, Texas. Each time, no criminal history was found in U.S. databases, allowing his release. On February 13, 2023, he crossed illegally near El Paso without detection, entering the U.S. for good. Once in the U.S., Martinez Hernandez's movements were transient but deliberate. By March 2023, he was in Los Angeles, where he was linked to a home invasion involving the assault of a 9-year-old girl and her mother. DNA from a ball cap and water bottle left at the scene later matched the Maryland crime. He surfaced in Bel Air by summer 2023, living less than a mile from the Ma and Pa Trail at a house on George Street with a friend, Marcos Campos Guevara. He worked at local restaurants, including Barrett's on the Pike and Popeyes, blending into the community. Witnesses, including his cousins Jose and Tanya Hernandez, confirmed he was in Bel Air during August 2023, but he vanished abruptly a month after Rachel's death, leaving behind socks, a toothbrush, sneakers, and other items, which later provided crucial DNA evidence. After fleeing Maryland, Martinez Hernandez moved through Virginia and Prince George's County, Maryland, staying with an aunt in Temple Hills. By May 2024, he was in Tulsa, where his phone revealed chilling details: searches for the Bel Air area, a screenshot of a news report about Rachel's case, and words like Rachel, Morin, and asesino, Spanish for murderer, in his user dictionary. Harford County Sheriff's digital forensic supervisor Heather Marsh testified that he had watched YouTube news reports about the investigation, suggesting he was tracking the case's progress. During questioning after his arrest, Martinez Hernandez waived his Miranda rights after requesting an attorney and spoke with detectives. He denied ever being in Maryland or knowing Rachel, claiming, "In reality, I don't know. Today, there is so much technology, anyone could do damage to anyone." When confronted with the DNA evidence, he suggested someone might have planted it to frame him. These denials clashed with the evidence, including his phone data and witness testimony placing him in Bel Air. On June 18, 2024, Martinez Hernandez was extradited to Maryland, arriving at Martin State Airport and transferred to the Harford County Detention Center. He faced charges of first-degree murder, first-degree rape, third-degree sexual offense, and kidnapping. Prosecutors, led by Harford County State's Attorney Allison Healy, alleged the attack was planned, citing Rachel's predictable jogging routine and the secluded culvert where she was found. They argued he hid in the woods, possibly with a shovel, waiting for the right moment. His criminal history painted a troubling picture. Beyond the El Salvador murder and the Los Angeles assault, Sheriff Galler described him as a potential serial killer, citing his repeated criminal activity in Central America and the United States. The arrest brought relief to Rachel's family. Patty Morin, Rachel's mother, spoke at a press conference, her voice heavy with emotion.
And it just gave me such hope that they really did care about our family and my daughter, that they were going to work diligently to find the person that murdered her.
The community too exhaled, but the arrest raised new questions. How had Martinez Hernandez moved so freely across states? The trial began on April 1st, 2025, in the Harford County Circuit Court, presided over by Judge Yolanda L. Curtin. Jury selection, a contentious process due to the case's high profile, took 3 days, with nearly 400 potential jurors screened to ensure impartiality. The defense, led by Assistant Public Defenders Marcus Jenkins, Sawyer Hicks, and Tara LeCompte, had argued that pretrial publicity, amplified by national media and mentions in a March 2025 executive order by President Donald Trump, made a fair trial in Harford County impossible. They requested a change of venue and a juror questionnaire, but both motions were denied. I have no doubt they're going to be able to find 12 jurors who are going to be fair and impartial, said Randolph Rice, the Morin family's attorney, addressing concerns about bias. By April 3rd, a jury of 10 men, 2 women, and 6 alternates was seated, ready to hear a case that had gripped the nation. Opening statements set the stage for a stark contrast in narratives. Harford County State's Attorney Allison Healy, prosecuting the case herself alongside Deputy State's Attorney David Ryden, presented a meticulous timeline of Rachel's final moments. She described how Martinez Hernandez, a 24-year-old Salvadoran national, ambushed Rachel between 7:04 and 7:10 p.m. on August 5, 2023, dragging her 150 feet to a drainage culvert where the attack occurred. You don't accomplish a rape and a murder in 4 to 6 minutes unless you have a plan, Healy told the jury, emphasizing premeditation. She highlighted DNA evidence found on Rachel's wrist, neck, and Apple Watch, as well as digital forensics from Martinez Hernandez's phone, which included searches for Bel Air, Rachel, and Asesino, and cached YouTube videos about the case. The prosecution called 32 witnesses over 9 days, weaving a compelling case. Rachel's daughters, Violet Custer and Faye McMahon, testified about their final texts with their mother around 7 p.m., which went unanswered, signaling the moment she was attacked. Richard Tobin, Rachel's boyfriend, recounted finding her car at the trailhead and his frantic calls to her unanswered phone. Volunteers Evan Knapp and Cecilia Ocorso described their harrowing discovery of Rachel's body, following a trail of bloody rocks to the culvert. I feel like time froze for a second, Knapp testified, recalling the shock of seeing her body. Sheriff's Detective Phil Golden detailed Martinez Hernandez's interrogation, where he denied being in Maryland or knowing Rachel, even as evidence mounted. Forensic scientist Tiffany Keener confirmed that Martinez Hernandez's DNA was the only male profile found at the scene, corroborated by 6 reports from the Maryland State Police Crime Lab. Digital forensic examiner Megan Waltemeyer pinpointed Rachel's time of death using her Apple Watch data, showing a heart rate spike at 7:07 p.m., followed by a rapid drop. The prosecution also presented testimony placing Martinez Hernandez in Bel Air for 5 months around the time of the crime. His cousins, Jose and Tanya Hernandez, confirmed he lived with them on George Street, less than a mile from the trail, and worked at local restaurants like Barrett's on the Pike and Popeyes. A witness, Kyle Stacy, testified to seeing a man in the woods near the trail moments before spotting Rachel, though his description, a tall, muscular man with a blonde beard, didn't match Martinez Hernandez, creating a potential point of contention. Another witness testified that Martinez Hernandez was seen with a shovel in the woods, suggesting he may have planned to conceal his actions. The prosecution argued this evidence, combined with the Los Angeles DNA match, painted a clear picture of a calculated predator. The defense, in contrast, presented a brief case, resting after calling one witness for less than 10 minutes on April 14th. They argued there were gaps in the evidence and questioned the motive, suggesting the crime was personal rather than random. Defense attorney Sawyer Hicks claimed Rachel attracted a lot of male attention, and that her recent relationship with Richard Tobin might have provoked jealousy in others. This was not a crime committed by a complete stranger, Hicks told the jury. This is someone who had a grievance, someone who wanted to humiliate Rachel Morin. They also attempted to cast doubt on the DNA evidence, with Martinez Hernandez claiming in his interrogation that someone could have planted it to frame him. During cross-examination, they questioned whether the DNA was properly collected and suggested that items like a backpack found in Tulsa might not belong to Martinez Hernandez, as multiple people lived in the home. However, these arguments failed to sway the jury. Closing arguments on April 14th were emotional. Healy reiterated the strength of the DNA evidence, stating, "Rachel lived her worst nightmare that day, and she never got to wake up and tell anyone. Her body told us what happened and who did it." The defense urged jurors to consider the lack of a clear motive and the witness description that didn't match their client. After less than an hour of deliberation, 46 minutes to be precise, the jury returned a unanimous guilty verdict on all charges: first-degree premeditated murder, first-degree rape, third-degree sexual offense, and kidnapping. Martinez Hernandez showed no visible reaction as the verdict was read, while Rachel's family, present every day in the courtroom, wept quietly. The consequences for Rachel's family were profound. Patty Morin, her mother, had been a vocal advocate for justice, appearing with Donald Trump during the 2024 presidential campaign and testifying before Congress about immigration policies. The trial was an emotional ordeal, with Patty visibly shaking when she saw Martinez Hernandez in court. However, the trial also sparked controversy, as Rachel's children filed a lawsuit against Patty and her sister, alleging they hadn't received funds from a trust meant for them, highlighting lingering tensions. Sentencing is scheduled for August 11, 2025, with prosecutors seeking consecutive sentences, potentially exceeding life without parole. "I hope that Judge Curtin considers that this was a violent and brutal and vicious attack," Healy said, emphasizing the crime's severity. As of June 2025, no new updates have emerged since the April 14th verdict. Martinez Hernandez remains in the Harford County Detention Center without bail, awaiting sentencing. The trial answered who took Rachel's life, but questions linger. Why did Martinez Hernandez choose her? Was it truly random, or was there a motive the evidence couldn't uncover? For now, the Ma and Pa Trail stands as a somber reminder of a life cut short and a family left to find peace in justice's shadow. If this case gripped you as much as it did us, hit that subscribe button and tap the bell so you don't miss our next deep dive into true crime. Share your thoughts in the comments. What do you think justice looks like for Rachel's family? Thanks for joining us on this journey, and we'll see you in the next one. Stay curious, stay safe, and keep chasing the truth with Checkered Sky.